So let's just okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's really good to see you all again, mashallah. If you can't hear me, please let me know. And if the voice is good, also let me know, inshallah. Okay, so this is where we stopped last time. And we were perfect. Thank you so much, Maham. Talking about one of the main themes of not just the Fuss, but the entire book, which is the Ista'dad. Now, Noor al-Alam, you gave a fantastic summary of what the Ista'dad is on multiple levels, because there's a philosophical meaning to what an Ista'dad is, and then there's the practical meaning as to what an Ista'dad is and how you can actually improve your Ista'dad, and what is the relationship between Ista'dad and the path itself, which is tazkiyah, purifying your heart, and therefore purifying your Ista'dad to receive more divine gifts, right? So he's got a fantastic summary of that. Check out his post on the Fusus group, inshallah. It's a really good summary. So I encourage people to look at that. And Sidi Noor, if you are here, thank you again for that very much. So this ta'dad is one of the major themes for the entire book. Now, we're going to continue on the same theme and start discovering other things as well. Can I get 3 readers, please, if possible? And we'll continue with the fuss, inshallah. Sidi Majid, Bismillah. I haven't seen you in a while. Ahlan wa sahlan.
Assalamu alaikum, Sidi. Yes, sorry, I have been going through quite a journey. So yes, whenever I can, I miss this group. I love it, and alhamdulillah that I'm here for now.
MashaAllah, Sayyidina, we love you too. And we miss your voice. This is the reading voice, 100%. Bismillah.
Bismillah. From which part, Sidi? Do we start?
Yeah, if you can see my screen, it's going to
Yes,
start
wait.
from, okay, وَإِنَّمَا يَمْنَعُ هَؤُلَاءِ, and
Okay.
then where do I want to stop exactly? Okay, and then we'll stop with مجملا.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, can you go back up because I can't see the part that I should start from?
Sorry,
No,
is it clear now?
no, a bit more up. Yeah, no, وإنما يمنع. This we start here from ومن هؤلاء.
Yes.
So I start from ومن هؤلاء or وإنما
Yes.
يمنع.
Yeah. No. You start from ومن هؤلاء,
Okay, perfect.
and then we'll finish
مجمل.
from مجمل. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, إن شاء الله. بسم الله. ومن هؤلاء من يعلم أن علم الله به في جميع أحواله هو ما كان عليه في حال ثبوت عينه قبل وجودها، ويعلم أن الحق لا يعطيه إلا ما أعطاه عينه من العلم به، وهو ما كان عليه في حال ثبوته، فيعلم علم الله به من أين حصل. وما ثم صنف من أهل الله أعلى وأكشف من هذا الصنف، فهم الواقفون على سر القدر، وهم على قسمين: منهم من يعلم ذلك مجملا، ومنهم من يعلمه مفصلا، والذي يعلمه مفصلا أعلى وأتم من الذي يعلمه مجملا.
ممتاز. Fantastic. Thanks so much. Second reader, please.
I can read.
Sorry, Dr. Huda. Yes, please. Bismillah.
أيوة، بسم الله. ومن هؤلاء من يعلم أن علم الله به في جميع أحواله هو ما كان عليه في ثبوت عينه قبل وجودها، ويعلم أن الحق لا يعطيه إلا ما أعطاه عينه من العلم به، وهو ما كان عليه في حال ثبوته، فيعلم علم الله به من أين حصل. ثم صنف من أهل الله وما ثم صنف من أهل الله أعلى وأكشف من هذا الصنف، فهم الواقفون على سر القدر، وهم على قسمين: منهم من يعلم ذلك مجملا، ومنهم من يعلمه مفصلا، والذي يعلمه مفصلا أعلى وأتم من الذي يعلمه مجملا. شكرا.
Mumtaz, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Third reader, please. Third reader, Bismillah. Otherwise, we'll carry on, inshallah. So, obviously, one of the key words here is ثبوت or ثبوت عينه or العين الثابتة. And so, what the awliya Allah try to do is to learn who they are in themselves and what Allah knows about them. It's obvious that Allah knows them, but they try to learn about themselves as much as they can. And they do this because of the hadith, من علم نفسه فقد علم ربه, right? He who knows himself knows his Lord. So in knowing oneself, one comes to know one's Lord. Now, if you are not gifted with a divine favor where Allah can actually give you knowledge of your own Ain Thabita, which is called your immutable entity or your fixed entity, then you try to deduce who you are by what happens to you in life, quite literally. Because the things that come to you from outside in your life, that can only happen because of your Ain Thabita. He only gives to you according to what you are in yourself and according to what your Ain Thabita requires. It's a weird concept because it's hard to think about it. Because the word Ain Thabita and Al-Ayan Thabita, it's connected to eternity. It is connected to eternity. Al-Azal wa Al-Abad. Abad al-Abad. Pre-eternity and post-eternity. Why is this? Because the Ayn al-Thabita is what Allah knows about you as you are in yourself in reality. Because we are in the dunya right now, which is the abode of change. It is the molten, and the abode of change. So we are not 100% sure of who we are. Is a person a mu'min or not a mu'min? Is a person going to do one thing in life or another? He's an engineer or an artist. He knows us, but we don't know who we are, if we're going to have children or not. But he knows us. So this is one of the secrets. This is why the scholars say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he loved Umar bin Khattab even when he was prostrating to idols. Why do they say this? Even when he was prostrating to idols, Allah loved him. Why is that?
Oh, alhamdulillah, because he knew his immutable essence was of a believer, inshallah.
Yes, that's exactly it. He knew what he was from pre-eternity, and that the actions of idolatry were an accident. I apologize. Would you just give me 1 second? I'll be right back. I apologize. Yeah, thank you very much, and apologies for that. So he knew who he was from pre-eternity. So we are only discovering what we are at the moment. And your ista'dad is the expression of your ayn thabita, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what he does is, and we're going to see this in a minute, this is related to what's called the secret of predestination, sir al-qadr. This is related to sir al-qadr. But what he gives us in this life is related to our ayn thabita. So nothing ever happens to us except it is a result of what our ayn thabita requires in order to bring into fruition, to manifestation, to manifest who we are. It's a pretty basic qaida. It's a pretty basic rule and principle. Simply what happens in life and what we see happening to us, that is a result of our ayn thabita. Now, why that happens is a whole other story, right? But nothing is accidental. Not a single thing is accidental. And so, one of the pieces of advice that are given by the awliya, not just Shaykh al-Akbar, but you'll find this in the Hikam of Ibn Ata'Allah al-Iskandari, right? Ibn Ata'Allah, the very famous Wali Allah and Sufi who wrote the Hikam, right? What they say is that if you want something in particular to Allah to give you something in particular in life, right? And there's something that has passed you by and you want it or want it back, and you are sad as a result of it, the key to obtaining it and reacquiring it is the state of sadness and grief. When you want something from Allah, you cry your eyes out. You weep and you weep and you weep. That's one of the keys to obtaining something. The state of sadness grants. The state of sadness grants. It's the maqam of al-huzn. So you'll also come across this in another place in the Fusus al-Hikam, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He responds to that particular state. Why does He respond to that particular state? Because one of the analogies that the Shaykh al-Akbar gives is that the relationship between Allah and His creation is like the relationship of a mother and her infant. So you'll find a very strange situation, even though the mother who's an adult is more powerful than an infant, by definition, right? So one would assume that the adult exercises control over the infant, but those who have children know that this is not the case. Not necessarily, and not completely, not totally. It is the infant, the baby, the child, who also exercises some kind of indirect control over the mother and the parent. When the child cries and needs something and needs milk, then the mother hastens to give it what it needs, to give him or her what she needs. So the cosmos and Allah are exactly like that. And someone found that interpretation quite scandalous, but it is an analogy that the Shaykh al-Akbar gives. نعمل به. اوكي قلبي انا عندي محاضرة. انت فيك ترجع؟ اشوفك. Thank you قلبي. Okay, apologies. So speaking about children, right? It's very relevant for this lesson. So that's the relationship between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the cosmos. The cosmos is in a state of need and iftiqar, complete need and complete iftiqar. Exactly, point proven. Exactly. So that's one of the secrets with regard to giving, Allah's giving, your state of need and total submission, total iftiqar, total poverty, total need is what drives the giving. That is what drives the giving. Now, he describes the different categories of awliya who have knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's gift giving. And so the highest of these categories and the highest of these saints is the one who is privy to the secret of destination, Sir al-Qadr. And then وهم على قسمين, those are divided into two categories as well. One category is someone who knows the secret predestination in a very comprehensive way, in a general way. And the second person is someone who knows it in detail, and that person is higher. So if you have not attended the class on Shaykh al-Akbar's life, or if you have attended it actually, One of the stories you would have come across is that before he crosses the ocean, right? He's going to cross the ocean from Spain into, I think, Algeciras, I think, right? And into somewhere into North Africa. Before he did that, he said, I resolved to know the state's ahwal of my entire life. And he's telling this to his stepson, Sadruddin al-Qunawi, right? Who's going to become his major heir to the Akbarian legacy, and spreads that into Iran and from Iran and Persia and Konya throughout the rest of the Muslim world. So he's telling him, I resolved to know all of my states with Allah, so he showed me what would happen to me and what happened to you too. So he's talking to Sadruddin al-Qunawi, what would happen to Shaykh al-Akbar and what happened to Sayyidina Sadruddin al-Qunawi. And so he would learn all his states, his own states, what would happen to him in the future, and the states of his own future student and future son-in-law. So the person who is privy to that, now, these knowledges are necessary for a particular reason because the awliya actually need them in order to complete their tasks in the cosmos. So this group is the highest group in terms of knowing what Allah will give them in the dunya and give them in the akhirah, what He will gift them in the dunya and what He will gift them in the akhirah, so that they know what to ask for. And there's so much more that could be said about this. But one of the most important ideas that are coming across here, of course, is the Sir al-Qadr, predestination, which is intimately linked to the Ayn Thabita and Ista'dad, but also mainly al-Ayan Thabita. What is the connection between Sir al-Qadr, the secret of predestination, and your Ayn Thabita? What is the connection?
Are they both pre-existent, written in something like, what I mean, preserved tablet or something like that, in Allah's knowledge?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. And the connection between them is to do with the actions that are written down for you and will be written down for you. So predestination is to do with your amal, the deeds you will perform on earth, and that's written down for you, isn't it? Khayrihi wa sharrihi. What will happen to you? What will happen to you and what you will do. That is written down, is it not? What we will do. So the person who will complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment, and he thinks he has an argument, but he doesn't. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have the what? He will have the hujjat al-baligha, the conclusive argument. He'll say, but you predestined those actions for me. And that's the secret. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reply to him. He'll say, yes, they were predestined. This is absolutely true. But they were predestined in accordance with your Ayn Thabita. I only decreed your actions in accordance with what I knew about you. So you yourself are the one who granted Allah this knowledge. It's a really ajib thing. Again, when Allah wants to know something about you, He looks towards the Ayn Thabita in His knowledge, in His pre-eternal knowledge. Then He decrees that thing. Because we tend to have, I don't know if I talked about this before, I apologize if it's a repetition, but we tend to imagine that Allah decrees something and we perform it, and we don't really quite know why. This is the preferred Ash'ari view. It is from Allah's inscrutable wisdom. It is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's inscrutable wisdom, and we leave it at that. We don't know why, it just is. But there is an answer. It's to do with your Ayn Thabita, your immutable entity. This is who you are. This is, therefore, if this is who you are, these are the actions that will be required by who you are. Why? So Abu Jahl might complain, why did you make me a mushrik? Because Abu Jahl is a mushrik. If Abu Jahl was not a mushrik, he wouldn't be Abu Jahl. He'd be someone else. Yes or no? Why was Leonardo da Vinci an artist? Because if he wasn't an artist, he wouldn't be Leonardo da Vinci. He'd be someone else. And so on and so forth, right? That's the secret. He only decrees something that is in accordance with your own Ayn Thabita and what the Ayn Thabita requires in order for you to become manifest in the cosmos, that you come to know yourself and therefore you come to know your Lord. And just like in False Adam, so that Allah comes to know you, right? كنت كنزا مخفيا, right? وحببت أن أعرف. I was a hidden treasure and I love to be known, so I create the creation so that I may be known, so that he may be known, but also that he may know himself in your mirrors, so that he may know himself in your mirrors. So let's leave it at that and then carry on, inshallah. And you know, if we're ever maybe possibly going a bit too fast, please don't worry about it too much. These are concepts that get repeated, and you will come across them again, inshallah. But isn't Ayn Thabita somehow written by Qadr? It is going in circles somehow. No, because your Ayn Thabita is who you are. So that's why Allah writes down the actions that are required by who you are. He won't write down an action that isn't in line. He will not write down an action. But he doesn't create an Ayn Thabita. He creates the surah. He creates the suwar and the ahwal. He creates the surah and the ahwal. He creates the forms that your Ayn Thabita will require, which is what? Your physical body and your states. But he doesn't create your Ayn Thabita. That's غير مجعول. That is غير مجعول. That's unmade. And it's pre-eternal because it's in his knowledge. By the way, Irvina, this is a great question because it's a problem that some of the people from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah also had, and they say we disagree with Shaykh al-Akbar, and some of them aren't Akbarians. Mustafa Sabri had an issue particularly on Shaykh al-Akbar's understanding of Ayn Thabita and predestination, because he says, doesn't that create a sort of kind of a duality? But we say no, because the Ayn Thabita are uncreated. They are the object in Allah's knowledge from pre-eternity. You see, they're not made. An apple seed isn't apple seed. So Allah is not going to bring an apple seed onto earth and then say, grow pears. That's not wisdom. He's not going to bring a hazelnut seed, or a hazelnut seed, into earth and then say, until that hazelnut seed grow pine nuts. That's not wisdom. So this also relates to Maham's question. What creates the Ayn Thabita? Nothing creates the Ayn Thabita. They are pre-eternal, right? But through what? Allah's knowledge. It is Allah's knowledge. He doesn't make his knowledge. His knowledge just is. It's a function of his life. Just like knowledge, just like power is a function of knowledge, shall we say will. God's will is a function of his knowledge, and power is a function of his will. And therefore his knowledge is a function of his life, right? Because he is living, knowing, willing, and powerful, right? His knowledge is pre-eternal. And that which is pre-eternal is by definition not made. And of course the arwah are connected to the Ayn Thabita, for sure. Exactly, Sidi Muhammad Razi. The Ayn Thabita are uncreated, just like Allah is uncreated, because it subsists in his pre-eternal knowledge. That's exactly it. Yes, that is correct. And yes, exactly. We can't help asking ourselves, how did they get to be pre-eternal? Because we expect everything to have a cause, right? Except eternity doesn't have a cause, of course, right? And that's a different way of thinking. And he knew the story, the parts and elements, and so we are written then to fit into that. The Shaykh al-Akbar's theology and his metaphysics is a strongly, fatalistic theology, but still, there's room for free will. But it's a strongly fatalistic theology, because everything is especially determined and decreed and written by what? The Asma al-Illahiyya in particular. especially the divine names. Okay, can we get 2 more or 3 more readers, please? We're going to start from فإنه يعلم ما في علم الله فيه إما بإعلام الله. We'll start from there, and then we'll end at the bottom part here. وصورة لها.
I can do it.
Please,
So,
Bismillah.
can you hear me?
Yes, Bismillah. Go ahead, Sidi Hamza. Bismillah.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you very
where
much.
was it? Where was it from? I was in prayer, but I was listening to you. So where was it from? It's a فإنه.
Yeah, فإنه يعلم to the bottom of the screen. If you look at the bottom of the screen, I hope you'll see سورة لها.
Yeah, فإنه ليس في وسط المخلوق.
So that's فإنه, yes, but could you start from the one above? So فإنه يعلم.
Oh,
If you see that.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so from top to bottom.
Subhanallah. فإنه يعلم ما في. Can you zoom it a little bit? Zoom in, yeah. That's good, thank you. فإنه يعلم ما في علم الله فيه إما بإعلام الله إياه بما أعطاه عينه من العلم به وإما أن يكشف له عن عينه ثابتة وانتقالات الأحوال عليها إلى ما لا يتناهي وهو أعلى فإنه يكون في علمه بنفسه بمنزلة علم الله به لأن الأخذ من معدن واحد إلا أنه من جهة العبد عناية من الله سبقت له وهي من جملة أحوال عينه يعرفها صاحب هذا الكشف إذا أطلعه الله على ذلك أي أحوال عينه فإنه ليس في وسط في وسع المخلوق إذا أطلعه الله على أحوال عينه ثابتة التي تقع صورة الوجود عليها أن يطلع في هذه الحال على هذه الحال على اطلاع الحق علي هذه الأعيان ثابتة في حال عدمها لأنها نسب ذاتية لا صورة لها. Apologize everybody for taking this much time. I'm embarrassed, yet I'm taking the space to really push myself to get better. Thank you.
Sidi, you are doing wonderful, mashallah. Yes, no, that was honestly good. Thank you so much, CD Hamza. MashaAllah. No, quite the contrary. Allah barak fik. Zanira, please. Bismillah, go ahead. Yes. And then Amira, after Zanira. Bismillah, yes.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فإنه يعلم ما في علم الله فيه إما بإعلام الله إياه بما أعطاه عينه من العلم به وإما أن يكشف له عن عينه الثابتة وانتقالات الأحوال عليها إلى ما لا يتناهى وهو أعلى فإنه يكون في علمه بنفسه بمنزلة علم الله به لأن الأخذ من معدن واحد إلا أنه من جهة العبد عناية من الله سبقت له وهي من جملة أحوال عينه يعرفها صاحب هذا الكشف إذا أطلعه الله على ذلك أي أحوال عينه فإنه ليس في وسع المخلوق إذا أطلعه الله على أحوال عينه الثابتة التي تقع صورة الوجود عليها أن يطلع في هذه الحال على اطلاع الحق على هذه الأعيان الثابتة في حال عدمها لأنها نسب ذاتية لا صورة لها.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Zanira. MashaAllah. Jazakallah khairan. Amira, Bismillah.
فإنه يعلم ما في علم الله فيه إما بإعلام الله إياه بما أعطاه عينه من العلم به وإما أن يكشف له عن عينه الثابتة وانتقالات الأحوال عليها إلى ما لا يتناهى وهو أعلى فإنه يكون في علمه بنفسه بمنزلة علم الله به لأن الأخذ من معدن واحد إلا أنه من جهة العبد عناية من الله سبقت له وهي من جملة أحوال عينه يعرفها صاحب هذا الكشف إذا أطلعه الله على ذلك أي أحوال عينه فإنه ليس في وسع المخلوق إذا أطلعه الله على أحوال عينه الثابتة التي تقع صورة الوجود عليها أن يطلع في هذا الحال على اطلاع الحق على هذه الأعيان الثابتة في حال عدمها لأنها نسب ذاتية لا صورة لها.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khairan to all of you. Thank you so much. Yes. MashaAllah. And I concur with Zanira, the one who struggles to read the Quran, he gets double reward, of course. Jazakallah khairan. So I find this to be quite straightforward in general, but if you have any questions, let me know. But essentially, the one Allah Ta'ala, He causes to know His own ayn al-thabita can either be by revelation or this individual, he discovers his own states within his ayn al-thabita through kashaf. So there can be an ilam al-illahi spoken. Someone has spoken to Allah, or sorry, someone's spoken to by Allah directly, and he informs him of his ayn thabita. Or it could also be the case that the person through kashaf discovers what are the states of his own ayn thabita. Either way could happen. And the one who knows his own ayn thabita in detail is superior to the one who knows his ayn thabita in general. Now, the Amir Amir Abdul Qadir al-Jazairi, he mentioned something quite interesting, right? Because again, this comes back to the question of al-Hujjat al-Baligha, God's argument against the sinner on the Day of Judgment. When Iblis says, you're going to punish me, but you decreed that I would not bow down to Adam. So isn't it from predestination? So then Allah asks him, okay, fair enough. Did you know that you would not bow down to Adam before you did not bow down to him? Or was it after you refused to bow down to him? So he said, no, it was of course after I refused to bow down to him, that's when I knew it was predestined. So then Allah said, that's why you're being punished. That's why that happens. The one who knows through his states, through a kind of kashf of what must happen according to his Ayn Thabita and the states that are required by his Ayn Thabita, the one who knows that, he is only carrying out what was decreed by Allah, right? He isn't making a choice per se. So this individual is excused, which is a strange thing. And the Emir al-Jazairi, he says this is the case even to the extent if the person knows from his Ayn Thabita he is required to slaughter 1,000 prophets, he would not be taken into account, which is a very ajib thing to say. It is indeed something very strange. And so that's the issue with regard to the secret of predestination and the Ayn al-Thabita. Now, of course, just to add to that, on top of this topic, there are actually other categories of individuals who are not taken into account in the Akhirah, and this is supported by a hadith, right? This is supported by a hadith in which, if you have heard this, Rasulullah was sitting with Sayyidina Umar bin al-Khattab. He is sitting with Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, and there is a man who is brought in. There is a man who is brought in. There is a man who is brought in, and he has betrayed the Muslims. He has betrayed the Muslims by submitting a letter to the mushrikun, the polytheists, giving them information about the Muslims. And so this man was caught and his letter was intercepted. And then he was brought to Rasulullah and Umar bin Khattab. And of course, Umar bin Khattab, being who he is, he wanted to execute the man on the spot. He wanted to execute the man on the spot. But this man was also from, where was he? He was from Ahlul Badr. He was from Ahlul al-Badr. He was from Ahlul al-Badr. And so Rasulullah, he told Umar, no, leave him alone. Because when it comes to Ahlul Badr, how do you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not said to them, go do as you wish, for I have forgiven you? And that brought Sayyidina Umar Khattab to tears when he said that, when Rasulullah said that. And he said, Allah and His Messenger know best. So this is a special status for certain groups of people. Ahlul Badr are one of them. If there's anyone who does not know, if there's anyone who does not know who Ahlul Badr are, please let me know, and I will explain it.
I'm sorry, Dr. Faris, could you zoom out because we can't see the English translation properly.
Okay, thank you very much. Bismillah. Here we go. Is that better?
Yes, is that?
All right, Bismillah. Okay. Sorry, I was just having a quick look at the chat, and yes, like later on, I can explain more about the Ayn Thabita. It's not something that can be it's not something that can be done quickly. It takes a bit of a while to wrap your head around it. Okay, inshallah. Okay, I'm sorry. I do have to run. So what we will do is I want to finish on this paragraph. We'll read this paragraph, and then I've got to go, please. So please pardon me for that. Bismillah, can we have 2 readers, please? And if not two readers, I'll read it. I'm happy to do it as well. Zanira, bismillah. Thank you so much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن هنا يقول الله تعالى حتى نعلم، وهي كلمة محققة المعنى، ما هي كما يتوهمه من ليس له هذا المشرب، وغاية المنزه أن يجعل ذلك الحدوث في العلم للتعلق، وهو أعلى وجه يكون للمتكلم بعقله في هذه المسألة، لولا أنه أثبت العلم زائدا على الذات فجعل التعلق له لا للذات، وبهذا انفصل عن المحقق من أهل الله صاحب الكشف والوجود.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Zanira. And please, Hala, bismillah.
ومن هنا يقول الله تعالى حتى نعلم، وهي كلمة محققة المعنى، ما هي كما يتوهمه من ليس له هذا المشرب، وغاية المنزه أن يجعل ذلك الحدوث في العلم للتعلق، وهو أعلى وجه يكون للمتكلم بعقله في هذه المسألة، لولا أنه أثبت العلم زائدا على الذات فجعل التعلق له لا للذات، وبهذا انفصل عن المحقق من أهل الله صاحب الكشف والوجود.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, all of you. Bismillah. So let's just finish off here. ومن هنا يقول الله تعالى حتى نعلم، وهي كلمة محققة المعنى، ما هي كما يتوهمه من ليس له هذا المشرب. So this is a extremely interesting ayah. From the Quranic sciences and tafsir, what is this sort of ayah called?
محكمات.
The other one. What's the other one?
متشابهات.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. This is from the mutashabihat, and the muhakkamat are clear, and the mutashabihat are real, and you have to believe in them, but people are discouraged from really digging too deep into what they are. And the I guess you could say the manners of the Salaf and the Sahaba is to, no, men be like kayf. We believe in it, but we don't ask how this is the case. We don't ask how this is the case. And we just do taslim, submission, right? And then the awliya, they have information as to why these things are written the way they are. What are the mutashabihat? Because this is going to be a major theme in Fasnuh when we come to it, inshallah. Well, first of all, why is this verse a mutashabihat? Before I explain what it is. Why is this one of the mutashabihat? Because it is, subhanAllah, it is giving the impression, even though it's not true, but it gives the impression that one of the attributes of Allah, which is knowledge, is occurring in temporal time now and is not eternal. Whereas we say that the attributes of Allah are eternal. Whereas this gives the impression that there is something He does not know. So the verse in question that is a part of this ayah, these words are a part of, says that we shall try you until we know. We shall try you until we know which one of you are the sabirin and the mujahideen, which one of you are the ones who are patient, the ones who struggle in our way. So if you say, we shall try you until we know, we shall try you until we know, but the problem is we know from pre-eternity, Allah already knows. So this is one of the mutashabihat that makes Allah resemble us, because there are things we don't know until I know something. So this idea is inappropriate to apply to Allah, and this is certainly the way what are called the ulama, rusum, see it, which is completely inappropriate, and the mutakallimun have a point. So it requires some kind of an explanation, right? But the way of the awliya, first of all, these ayahs which are called mutashabihat. The mutashabihat are those verses which make Allah seem to make Him resemble us, even though we are not Him and He's not us. and he is completely free of the imperfections that are attributed to us, which is one of the important lessons we took from Faris Adam previously, which is to say, you let him be your protection, right? And you be his protection. How? By making sure that you do not attribute to him what is inappropriate to him, what are called the temporal things, what is called the huduth, right? What is huduth, you do not attribute it to him because he is far exalted beyond that. So the mutashabihat are verses in the Quran where Allah seems to resemble his creation. So they require some explanation. Therefore, the first thing the awliya do is they interpret such verses through the lens of tanzih. Tanzih means incomparability or some kind of transcendence, right? So they interpret it with a view towards transcendence. So for example, if you have a simple verse in the Quran that says Allah knows, and sure, I know too, but his knowing is not like my knowing. There's no comparison. Therefore, he knows in such a way that is perfect, whereas my knowledge is imperfect. Whereas my knowledge is imperfect, whereas his knowledge is perfect in every way, shape, and form. So if that's the case, first of all, the awliya interpret it through the lens of tanzih. But the second thing they do is that they wait until Allah informs them of what the meaning of the verse is or shows them what the meaning of the verse is. They do not apply rational interpretations just to justify their understanding of what God should be. And this goes into a huge and beautiful topic about tanzih and tashbih, the attributes of Allah that are revealed through revelation. Allah's incomparability and Allah's similarity. In what way is he incomparable to creation? In what way is he similar to creation? Now, which is the main topic of Fasnuh, of course, when we come to that, inshallah. And of course, tanzih and tashbih are the building blocks of every single belief system in the entire world. So it's an incredibly fascinating way to study religions and belief systems and sects and factions and other faiths, because you can always understand the rationale of a religion by this kind of ratio that it constructs between tanzih and tashbih. Does a religion or a philosophy even lean more towards tanzih, or does it tend to lean more towards tashbih? If so, how, in what ways? It's a really beautiful topic. But with regard to this verse specifically, حتى نعلم, Sheikh Al-Akbar is saying, وَمِنْ هُنَا يَقُولُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى حتى نعلم, which is with regard to the topic of predestination and the ayn al-thabita. Why? Why? Because although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows and has knowledge of what we will do from pre-eternity, he is also al-khabir. What's al-khabir? The one who's well informed? Yes, but al-khabir also means the one who's experienced, who experiences things, which is an ajib attribute. He experiences things in the here, in the now, despite knowing things from eternity as well. So حتى نعلم here means until we experience you being patient and you struggling in our way, even though he knows from pre-eternity without a shadow of a doubt whether you will be patient and struggle in his way or not. So from the secret of predestination, when the action is decreed, when the decree descends, and therefore the servant acquires that action, right? Kasab. He acquires that action and implements that action. That's when hatta na'lam. That's when he knows. Although what he knows, him being eternal, he knows from pre-eternity what you will do. So there's another meaning to this verse. Hatta na'lam, which is in the nahnu, in the jam'a. Who's na'lam? In Quranic tafsir, you say this is lafz jalali, right? It's a sign of his royalty. But for Shaykh Al-Akbar, no. Na'lam is also a literal we, which refers to the divine names. Until the divine names know which one of you will do this and that. But because he was talking about the highest class of awliya in this previous passage, the commentators of the Fusus al-Hikam also say that's referring to what's called al-Hadrat al-Insan al-Kamil. Because the perfect man is also a divine presence. And clearly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is also a divine presence at his own level. So hatta nara means until we know, that is insan kamil, until the Khalifat Allah ala ard, he knows whether you will be patient or struggle. Until he knows whether you'll be patient or struggle. That's one of the meanings. Hatta na'lam, right? Hatta na'lam. And so that's why he says, this is nothing like what the people of the field of kalam, the mutakallimun, explain, because they explain in a completely different way. Now he goes into the technicalities, which we won't do, because it's too technical, as to the way they think and justify their argument, right? But he says, as for the muhaqqiqun min ahl Allah, sahab kashf wal wujud, they have a completely different mashraba. They have a different, completely spiritual tasting, because their tasting is to believe in the mutashabihat and the tashbih, the verses that describe Allah's tashbih that exists throughout the cosmos, and they know how it should be applied, and they don't run away from it. They don't shy away from it. They know where its proper place is, and they apply it. So we're not going to get into the technicality of why the mutakallim thinks that way, because that's what he's explaining in this next paragraph. So we're not going to get into that. But the mutakallim believes that knowledge is what's called za'id ala that, right? To run away from this problem. Whereas Shaykh al-Akbar says, no, nothing is super added to the essence. Nothing is super added. His knowledge is himself. What he knows of us, right, is the object of his knowledge, and his knowledge is himself. Therefore, when he is knowing us, he is knowing himself too. Because we are his wujud. We borrow his wujud from him. It belongs to him. It's not ours. We are the madahir, the place from which his attributes manifest. That's all we are. We have no existence. Existence belongs to him totally. Right? So hopefully this is a topic that will lead you into hayra, some sort of bewilderment and confusion. And you'll learn more about it with greater clarity as time goes on, inshallah. Let me take like 1 or 2 questions, and then I do have to run, and I really apologize for that, because I wanted to stay more. But thank you for bearing with me. The we here is exclusively God, but then one of the commentators of the Fusus al-Hikam explains that it's also God and insan and kamil. Why? Because when insan and kamil, the highest category that we just described previously, comes to know himself and his ahwal, right? And that's when he knows. He comes to know, right? Because there are different divine presences, right? There's 5 divine presences, right? This world is a divine presence. The spiritual world is a divine presence. The imaginal world, alam al-khayal, is a divine presence. And hadrat al-ilm, which is the presence of knowledge, God's knowledge as he knows things from pre-eternity, is the highest presence. Then the presence that gathers all presences, hadrat, together into him or herself is who? Insan kamil. He or she's the 5th presence. And she's the one who combines every presence together. So he is also, or she is the one who knows, or hatta ya'lam, until he knows, right? So let me take 1 question then, or 2 questions, and then I'll run off. See, Shabir, bismillah.
Thank you so much for the session. My question was regarding a comment you made earlier about certain people not being taken into account, like the Ahl Badr, for example.
Yes.
And then, like, there's an ayah in the Quran, that's Surah Furqan, ayah 20, that says, and we made some of you as a trial to others, will you have patience? So is Allah here using certain people as a test for other people, and therefore the people he's using as a test are not held to account because they're fulfilling the purpose of the test for other people? And as an example to that, is then Shaitan held to account because he is ultimately here for our...
Yeah, no, the verse is not describing that, but certainly that could be one of the ways to Understand, like, it's what's called secondary meaning, but that is in no way its primary meaning. The primary meaning is simply that other people are used to try other people, and even the ones who are used to try those individuals, they can be held to account 100%, which makes Iblis accountable for what he did. It is up to Allah to decide whether He wants to give exceptions or not. Ahl Badr, because of their maqam, because of their rank, they are given an exception. They are exempted. They're exempted from being taken into account. Whatever they do in this world, they're not taken into account for it. Ahlul Bayt is the other category. Ahlul Bayt are not taken into account. Ahlul Bayt are not taken into account. And you are completely right, by the way, to bring up this verse nevertheless. That's not its primary meaning. But this verse has a connection. Why? Because Shaykh Al-Akbar says that because the Ahlul Bayt are not taken into account, when an Ahlul Bayt wrongs you, this is his view. It shocks a few people, but this is his view. If he wrongs you, you should just view it as qadr. You know, like if a tree falls on your house, you don't blame the tree. You just say, oh, this is Allah's qadr, and you have patience with it. That's the same thing. It's just Allah's qadr. Why? Because He says, لِيُطَهِّرُكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا, so that you, Ahlul Bayt, may be purified completely. So they're pure. That's it. It is from Sha'ab Iman, from the branch of faith, you must believe that they are purified, and they will not be taken into account. So if an Ahlul Bayt wrongs you, then it's from his qadr, and you are asked to have patience with that. This does not mean that he himself is not subject to laws. No, he is subject to the law. If he steals, he's subject to the law. If he commits fornication, he's subject to the law. If he commits murder, he's subject to the law. Just like any other person. Any other person, but on the day of judgment, he is resurrected and forgiven. Any other questions? Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to remind you of Yasmin's question about Aina Thabita, if you would like to just briefly go over it one more time.
Yasmin, can I do it over WhatsApp, because it's not a short story, and you're right, it's not easy.
I was also gonna suggest that. I was gonna suggest and tell her if she needs the link to join the WhatsApp group, I will leave it in the chat, so you can discuss it.
But I believe, Yasmin, are you not in the WhatsApp group? I mean, if not, certainly please come. Ahlan wa sahlan. Yes, of course. If you're not in the WhatsApp group,
Yes,
please
I'm
come.
on the WhatsApp group, but no worry. Okay, we can do it on the WhatsApp.
Yeah. So let me send a message there, because it's a long story. But Jazakallah khairan. But thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Hannah, you want Hannah, because that's already in the Quran, so we don't need to talk metaphysics for that. Just very simply, that's in the Quran and the Hadith. But like the blind, the sick, and the lame are not taken into account. But although there are Hadith, and you'll see this in Fas or Uzair, where the mad and the people who are called Ahl Fatra are given their own, and children too. This is very ajib. Children who died before attaining to maturity, they're given their own test on the Day of Judgment. They are given their own test on the Day of Judgment. And they'll be told to follow a prophet, and they follow the prophet, then they succeed. How does this work? I have no idea. It's a very ajib thing. But they have their own tests on the Day of Judgment. And certainly we assume that children who die before attaining to maturity, we assume they're innocent, and we assume that they're therefore saved. That's also a fine point of view. So it's also a fine point of view to assume that the mad are also forgiven, right? But then how do we square that with the hadith, and therefore the Fasr Uzair, where that they'll be given their own test on the Day of Judgment? I do not know, because there's a verse in the Quran that talks about the child, his hair will go gray on the Day of Judgment because of the test he'll be given. If someone can just remind me of the verse, وَيَوْمَ يَجْعَلُ وِلْدَانَ شِيبًا, right? That will happen on the Day of Judgment, which is terrifying. So they'll have their own test, which is strange, because you have to have cognition and intellectual maturity to be tested. So does that mean they'll be given intellectual maturity on the Day of Judgment? Also, the mad, you need sanity in order to be tested. Does that mean they'll be granted sanity on the Day of Judgment? I do not know. I don't know the details, but they have their own tests on the Day of Judgment. And then they'll have to follow a messenger who's called Rasul al-Haq. He'll come to them and say, I am the messenger, the real to you. and they'll be required to follow him. So that's a whole other subject. But whoever wants to assume that children who have died prematurity are innocent and are saved, that's completely fine, because the Shaykh al-Akbar also argues for that in the Futuhat as well. And they are saved by virtue of being sinless. So thank you so much. And if you have any other questions, please send them to me on WhatsApp. And I'll also get back to the question on Ayn Thabita. Jazakallah khairan. And thank you so much. I apologize for the shorter lesson. Look forward to seeing you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.